Welcome back to Collective Practice. I'm Lauren Spalding, and if you're new here, this is a podcast for mental health entrepreneurs where we talk about business skills, clinical skills, and mental health. Welcome to today's episode where we're going to be talking about money management in your private practice. And I wanted to share 3 things that you should be considering when you're setting up the budget for your private practice. The first thing is retirement. We do not have a pre-set up 401k. We don't get to have an employer determine the percentage that goes into our retirement from our paychecks. And that's something that we have to set up ourselves. And a lot of times retirement gets put off, especially when we're early on in our career. But we need to be considering the future. And even if we don't see ourselves retiring, even if we want to be working until we're in our 80s, 90s, 100s, you do want to be saving because you don't know what the future will hold. And it's so important to be prepared for anything that could happen as you get further along in your career. Now, I recommend opening up a Roth IRA and getting that set up as soon as you can. There are Roth IRAs that you can set up without having to put any initial money into it, and you can start putting money in when you feel comfortable. And I recommend planning how much you want to put towards it to try to max it out. Now, maxing out a Roth IRA is putting in $6,000 for the year. And maybe you're not at a place where you can do that with your business budget, but make that your long-term goal. You want to eventually get to a space where you can max it out every year, but just start small. Even the smallest amount of money that you're putting towards your retirement makes a difference. Make sure you're including that in your budget as an entrepreneur. Now, the second thing I want you to consider is making sure that you have a rainy day fund set up for your practice. And this should be separate from any emergency fund you have set up for yourself or your family. A rainy day fund is money set aside for emergency situations. And we all experienced that last year when the pandemic started. And there were people who weren't able to work for a little while. If we remember, some companies put jobs on hold or just stopped paying their employees for a short while. And that led to some clients having to pause on therapy. So moments like that, where we are in an emergency state, where our company's in an emergency state, we want to make sure that we have the funds to make sure we still can pay our bills and make sure we can even still pay ourselves during those times. So having a rainy day fund is really important to consider, just in case things happen that could lead to you not being able to make ends meet for a month or however long. It's recommended to have about 3 months of expenses put aside and saved for a healthy rainy day fund. And the last thing I recommend is to make sure you're putting aside some profit. This is the money that you get to reward yourself at the end of each quarter or at the end of the year for all of the hard work that you put in as the business owner. If you were a larger company, you would be paying your shareholders dividends. So because they invested in your company, because they invested in your growth, you're paying them a profit based on how the company grew. And you should be doing that as a business owner, and you should be doing that right away and really being thoughtful on acknowledging how much more work you're putting in as a business owner versus if you were just a therapist or working for someone else. So the idea of putting profit aside every paycheck is you speaking into your worth. And I recommend starting with about 1% for the profit if that feels like not a priority to you or not something that you want to necessarily put before considering retirement or the rainy day fund. Still put aside just 1% for profit, and you're going to see that grow throughout the year. And when you are growing your business and your revenue starts to increase, you want that profit to increase. And you should set a goal to try and get that up to 5% at some point. And you will notice that giving yourself that bonus at the end of each quarter or at the end of the year is just going to feel so rewarding and really just be something where you can really feel your self-worth in everything that you've worked, everything that you've done. You deserve to be rewarded for all of the hard work you're putting into your business. And make sure that you're spending that profit on something fun. Don't put it towards paying off bills. Don't reinvest it back into your company. Let it be something that is for you. It could be a trip. It could be something that you've been wanting to buy for a long time but never really saved up for. It could be having a lavish dinner, whatever it is that feels good to you. Get yourself a treat for all of the work that you are doing, and make sure that you are doing that early on in your practice. Now, when we think about budgeting as an entrepreneur, admittedly, a lot of us don't really think about it. We just kind of go with the flow and we assume everything that we have bills wise and everything that we're paying for is necessary. But if you're not able to pay yourself consistently, invest in retirement, if you're not able to put aside money for a rainy day fund or put enough money aside for taxes, you are likely living outside your means as a business owner. And in that case, there are only two options. You either need to increase your revenue or you need to cut some of the expenses. So if you are noticing that you can't put a percentage aside towards these categories, or if you're noticing that you can't consistently have the same percentage put aside towards these categories, you might want to reflect on what your money is going towards, and are you potentially spending too much on the operating expenses of your business? And you will notice as you start to actually budget for your business, as you start to actually consider things like a rainy day fund and retirement, you are going to start feeling a lot less financial stress. And you're going to build up that confidence as a business owner in money management. Now, of course, it's recommended to still have an accountant and to outsource your billing in the future, because you don't have to be an expert on finances to run your business. You should be confident to let someone else help you with things like taxes and money management, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't also have an eye on what your finances are doing. You should know how your money is working for you, and you should make sure that you are doing what's right in investing in your business versus doing what feels good or feels exciting at the time. And so by implementing these new money management strategies, you're going to start practicing being more mindful about your financial habits as a business owner and being a lot more thoughtful in your business decisions. Well, that's everything I've got for you today. So take a moment and think about your budget for your private practice and see if you need to do a little bit of changing things around or even shifting some of your mindset. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. It's free and it's the easiest way to support this podcast and help it reach other people. Make sure to share this episode with a friend or a colleague or anyone who could benefit from this information. Be sure to follow me on my social medias, where I share even more content geared towards mental health entrepreneurs and private practice owners. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.